So as you know, we are in the Middle East, and I don't know if you know the story, but our president, Shimon Peres, who was very much for peace, Peres means in Hebrew, bearded vulture. He came from Poland. They have a Polish named Persky, and in 1944 he went in the desert, and with a professor, Mendelssohn, who established Tel Aviv University, and suddenly a bearded vulture was flying low, and the professor got very excited, and he started to shout, Peres, Peres. And Shimon Persky, at that time, looked for a Jewish name. On spot, he changed it to Peres. At that time, he didn't know it's a scavenger, but we were very proud that our president is named after a raptor. Unfortunately, they are gone. So if we are talking on Barnhouse, you see, we took him when he was the president to see our project, and I'll get it a bit, okay, I'll tell you this story, good too. I got a prize for my activity on the 60th anniversary of Israel. And there was a big ceremony in Caesarea with 3,000 people, with the Minister of Environment and Shimon Peres. But I already was committed to give a lecture in the States, in California. So I said I cannot come, and Mr. Peres called me and said, Yossi, this is not a joke, this is a prestige prize, with 3,000 people, you have to come. I told him I already promised I cannot change now. But I told him I sent my grandson. And you see, he got a t-shirt of the hoopoe, which is the national bird of Israel. And he came and my wife and my daughter, they really panicked. How can you get a boy of 9 years to the stage? He will panic. I said, don't worry. He is okay. He will not panic. He went on the stage. You know what Shimon Peres told him? You are much nicer than your grandfather. So again, you know the story. The Middle East is a big story for bird migration. We have an amazing diversity like the Hume stony owl. We have excellent weather. As you know, this in Eilat, and I skip some of this. The question is what our vision in what we are doing. And I always like to show this picture, especially to Americans, when you see President Bush standing like a birder, but he forgot to remove the cover of the binocular. So when you are walking with politicians, and I'm walking a lot with politicians, you have to be really careful. When I got this picture, I thought maybe it's really not polite to show the American, the president, with this pose. Fortunate enough, after 3 years, it happened to our Minister of Defense, as you can see here. So the question is, how do we want to see the Middle East? Do we want to see it like this, what's happening here, or what we are doing with Hans Seidel, with Ikram and Said, trying to get people together and following the birds? As you know, the numbers are really amazing, and I go a bit faster so we have time for questions because it's the end of the day. Pelicans, we have the entire Palearctic population, 50,000 pelicans, and people talked about it. Unfortunately, the Hula Valley was dried out, but not only the Hula Valley, the entire Middle East, in Iraq, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Turkey, a lot of wetlands are destroyed. And for the pelicans, this is, of course, a big problem. And now they are going on the fish ponds, and it was told anymore, and that's it. One of the issues which really advanced our work in Israel, for birders, of course, Israel is heaven. But because of the political situation, with just a big air force, we had many collisions and lost many aircraft. So we were leading a project by putting across the nation birders who came from all over the world to follow bird migration, and it became a big project for us. So we could, since the early 80s, follow the numbers of the raptor, storks, and pelican migration, the soaring birds. I started to fly with a motorized glider every day from the Egyptian border to the Lebanese border. We used the drones for the first time ever in the world for a positive purpose to follow bird migration, and we got it, even it's a very expensive system, because we did it for the Air Force, we got it free of charge. We started to use radars in the Middle East, which wasn't used before. And basically, you can see now the Israeli Air Force is using radars across the country, which helps us a lot to follow the migration. They made new regulation to fly. We've just defined the routes, the heights, and the timing of the soaring bird. They stopped to fly there, and immediately it dropped dramatically by 76%, saving the Israeli budget $1.5 billion till now. And of course, more important, the life of the pilots. So this was one of the issues who helped us to really improve the issue. Immediately, we tried to join forces also with the Jordanian and the Turkish Air Force. We made seminars here, but because of the political situation, it really didn't work well. And Just to show you how it worked, about this study, which was my PhD, I wrote a book, Flying with the Bird, and we had a ceremony in the President's house at that time, Weizmann, who was also the commander of the Air Force before, and we brought the Palestinian at that time, Imad Atrash, and others. And the amazing story was that after our president, Weizmann, the late president, finished his cadention, he flew to Jordan to His Majesty King Abdallah, and the official present was the book Flying with the Birds, telling, like the birds who knows no boundaries, our nation should follow the birds and do it much better. So things are working with the politician. Now, how did I go to Ricky Arnold and to Louise, his wife? We, as you know, we had the astronaut who passed away together with the American astronauts with Columbia in the STS-107, and Ricky came 2 years ago to give a lecture. Every year there is a Memorial Day. And the Minister of Science called me, and another donor who was helping to these events, Yossi, there is an astronaut who is keen to meet you. I said, why is he keen to meet me? He thought, I don't know, but he wants to meet you. Okay, I said, who knows what's going on? I met Ricky for breakfast in Jerusalem, and then I asked him, why do you want to meet me? Because I'm a keen birder, and I want to see how I can see birds. So that was my first, and then I told Ricky, listen, you have to come for a full day to see the birds, at least one day, because the program was really condensed. So he told me, Ricky, till Friday afternoon, I'm totally busy with the events, but on Saturday I'm free. As you know, I'm religious. I don't drive on Saturday. I told Ricky, on Saturday I cannot drive. He told me, don't worry, I'll drive. But Yuval Dax, who is here, took him, and Yuval is a top birder, and he got really excited. So I told him, every year we have a lecture day. It will be this week on Wednesday with all the pilots who are coming. And I told him, next year maybe you can give a lecture like you gave us now. He said, next year I'm in the space shuttle. This was 2017. In 2018, I'm in the space shuttle. 2019, I promised to come. Said, okay. And we have every day a lecture day with about 700 people. And then, 2 days before the lecture day, I got an email from the space, the picture that Ricky sent me, here, that's your reason. I don't forget, next year I'm in Israel. And here he is now in Eilat with his wife. So this was a very nice package to do together with the family. So what we decided to do, we brought 9 pilots from UK who came just this day, landed in Haifa. If the weather is okay tomorrow, they come to land near Eilat. On Monday, they will go in the field with Noam to see the bending station, to see the migration in the mountains. And then we are flying with them. You see, they came by the aircraft. We go around to the Dead Sea to learn the problems of the Dead Sea. Then we fly to Jordan, to Amman, and then we fly till the north back, and they will give a lecture. We were studying migration also with white storks 20 years ago. All the data that you see now, you can see every second the birds. We started with Angela Merkel and Klaus Topfer, who gave us the funds for following 120 white storks. And we made a big website when we got the funds, which was called Birds.org.al. And this is now the big portal that Dan Alon and his team are running. The Americans were really happy about this idea. And we started to join forces with 30 Palestinian and 30 Jordanian schools. And the idea was that we take them in the field, we go for birding, then we make triples of an Israeli, a Palestinian, and a Jordanian, and we make competition who makes a better lunch in the field and stuff like that to get them excited and so on. And just to show you, I want to show a summary of 200 storks that we followed in 20 years. And you can see now the summary that all the storks, every dot is a stork with a PTT. The storks of Western Germany are moving to the Gibraltar, but the big numbers are flying over the Bosphorus, Iskandron Bay, and over Israel and Palestine and Jordan, along the Great Rift Valley. So this is a 1 minute clip of 20 years of studies with the white storks. And they move up to South Africa. And then all the way back, as you can see here, they avoid to fly, of course, over the Mediterranean because no thermals over the Mediterranean. And we were lucky to see with Ricky, with Chen. Where is Chen? Chen was going with him now for several days, and we had fantastic views of the migration of raptors and white storks. And the big story is that what we are talking here now in the last few days If we can get all this data on one database, which the one who is doing now the best is Wikelski, Martin Wikelski from Radolfzell, or Max Planck Institute in Radolfzell, who is the developer, most of you probably know, the MoveBank. There you can see all this movement on one big database, and I just show you one other sample which is so amazing. Oh, not this one, 1 minute. Opa, one, sorry. How you can now follow with students and with researchers. This was done with Cornell University of waders who are nesting in North Siberia and are moving to Australia and New Zealand. All of them will stop for a week in the Yellow Sea in China for refueling, and then they move on to the wintering ground. Everything is now on the web. You can follow it. You can get impressed what a globe we have here. So if you can have it on one database and get the public and the schools and the students to follow it online, this is of course something which will get everyone excited. And you see they're making almost the same way back to their nesting grounds. So a lot of activity, educational activity with kids. For example, the griffon vultures. The National Park Authority attached many radio transmitters on griffon vultures, which are unfortunately extincted from our region. And one of the vultures was caught in the Negev desert, nesting in Jordan. And we have feeding stations. They come every day to have some kosher meat and fly back to Jordan. So you see, this works. And Dan Alon and his team developed the online cameras. We have now online cameras which have about 5 million hits, and of short-toed eagles and long-legged buzzard and eagle owls and more. So the story of the barn owls that we started to talk about, it was a huge problem that in the entire Middle East, a lot of poisoning, mainly against rodents, killing thousands of migrating birds like the imperial eagle here. So the idea was to develop a network of nesting boxes in the Middle East. We started in Israel with 14 nesting boxes, and you know the barn owls are like the ultra-Orthodox in Israel, between 6 and 12 kids each one. So it started with only 14, 15 nesting boxes, and since 2008, we convinced the government, the Ministry of Environment, Agriculture and Regional Cooperation, and it became a national project, and now we have 4,500 nesting boxes in Israel. And our Palestinians, as you can see here, and then we used also the kestrels, and in 2002, we had the first seminar with Palestinian and Jordanian because the barn owls were crossing, of course, borders. And I'm really happy to have here Syed and Ikram and Hans Seidel, who took now the responsibility to develop it also in Palestine. The Jordanian put already 380 boxes, and this gentleman is a general on the left side on the peace treaty with Jordan in 1994. He signed the contract with the other Israeli general, with Yossi Rabin and Clinton and His Majesty King Hussein. And he was convinced this is a story of cooperation. He has now in Amman, and he will be here on Monday, and Tuesday he will fly with us and give a lecture from war to peace. And he even brought him to the Knesset, to our parliament, to give a lecture. And we made an exhibit in the parliament on the barn owl and starting to use them as pest control agent. On the right side, you see our president and the Minister of Environment, and this became a big story. And for Muslims, they believe the barn owls are a bad omen, bringing bad luck. Suddenly they saw the impact of it, and now they understood it's a good luck. We made a lot of posters and materials. Some of them we don't mention Hebrew, only Arabic. So some of the people who are influenced by the political situation, they will accept it. And some of them are done just every nation by itself. And the issue then is not only an environmental issue used by the barn owls as a pest control agent, but it's also people to people. Suddenly the farmers meet each other, and the scientists and the conservationists. And some of them are dancing, you see? People are dancing at the end of a seminar. We got even for our Ministry of Defense ammunition boxes, which we converted to nesting boxes of barn owls. This is the prophet of Isaiah changing the sword to plowshares. And some fantastic stories. 8 years ago, for the first time ever, on the border with Jordan, we found a pair of barn owls. The female was a Jordanian, the male was an Israeli. 6 chicks, no problem. And so if you believe in peace, it works with the barnhouse. That's what I told you. And 4 years ago, a warden from the Nature and Park Authority found a pair of 2 females and 1 male, bigamia. First time ever documented with barn owl, and you won't believe it, they got 19 chicks. Just imagine a male feeding 19 chicks and 2 ladies. This is really complicated. So, but he made it, and 17 fledged. And this is Alexander Rollen, I mentioned you, who is the Swiss guy. And this is, you see, the president of Switzerland last August when we took him with 150 ambassadors and in Switzerland. And he was talking about the story of the barn house. You see 150 ambassadors. And there we met for the first time the ambassador from the Vatican. You might know that in the Vatican, the soldiers are Swiss soldiers. So this work now with the Pope. And this is the Prince of Monaco, and I'll skip it now. We had several seminars in Greek and Cyprus, and they are now adapting the system. This is the meeting in September with the Minister of Agriculture of Cyprus, and our president our Prime Minister, with the President of Cyprus and President of Greece, signed a contract 4 months ago on 3 issues. One issue was the gas, you know, in the Mediterranean is a big gas. The second is cyber and security. And the third, you know what it was? Barn house. So can you imagine, they're talking on the most expensive project, but we succeeded to penetrate also with the story of the barn house. The story of the swift is also a big story. The common swift are nesting in the Western Wall, okay, in the Israel. And they are, as you can see here, they are nesting in the Church of Nativity in Bethlehem and in Mosque in Amman. So we believe the swift can be a flag species for the church and for mosque and for synagogues. And Mark Koret, who is the pilot who is leading now the 8 pilots who are coming to Israel, made a sculpture in the Christian quarter in the old city of Jerusalem of an olive tree as a symbol of peace with 120 swifts hanging instead of the leaves of the olive tree. And Prince William, who came for the first time in an official visit to Israel from UK, came to this sculpture. So that's a way to get them. And we are doing some other things which I skip because time is limited. We made in the Dead Sea a big seminar with 24 artists who were sitting for 12 days, half time in Israel, half time in Jordan, to paint the birds of the Dead Sea and the mammals. And we even brought to Eilat the Dalai Lama to give a speech on the top of the mountain where you can see Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Israel, and Jordan about peace and environment. We brought Paul Winter, who is playing with the birds, and he was also in the Dead Sea. And that's the way, you see, when we brought the painters to Jordan, 160 students came to paint and learn about the birds and the environmental problem of the Dead Sea. The same in Israel. We brought a bus from Jericho with Palestinians and Bedouins and Israeli schools together. So that's the idea. I think the main message is if you join forces, you can win the battle. Like you see the birders in the Sahara. You join forces, you can make it. But you have to be focused. And if you are focused, you can even fish on the highway. But you have to be focused. And this I took in South Africa. Our public bar is presently not open because it is closed. He is focused, the guy who is hiding this. So because time is over, I wanted to show a short film, but we show you this next time. Thank you for your patience. And